Well, yeah, it hasn't really played out the way that Carlson and others like him have feared. Hispanic voters moved towards Trump in the last election. In the border counties of Texas, people are worried about the migrants and about the border. Black voters moved towards Trump. This kind of racial essentialism or demographic essentialism has been wrong kind of over and over in American politics. The true story of America is that today's immigrants are tomorrow's nativists, often. It's two sides of the same coin of America, that we welcome immigrants, we're also suspicious of them throughout our history. But I will say that when Stefanik's campaign is dialing up and looking for dollars on Facebook, and when Carlson is on the air, they're looking for the same thing for the same reason. It's ratings, audience, money. They see an audience they can tap. And this idea in its different forms, even shorn of the anti-Semitic, anti-Black content that you see in the manifesto of the shooter in Buffalo, is powerful and vivid and explains something that's happening to people who are very worried. And that's the common theme. The reason it's so hard, to Michael's point, to back away from this is that there is an audience for it. A third of Americans believe that replacement, on-purpose replacement to replace the American voter, is actually happening. And it's not only Republicans, it's also Democrats. It's a powerful idea. It goes back a long way. It takes many forms, but they're all kind of connected.
Claire, President Joe Biden's candidacy was, in his words, inspired by what he saw in Charlottesville and by the ex-president's reaction to it. I think he's had some incredibly powerful things to say, and his written statements and his statements for the camera today have spoken straight to this. But what is your thought about how he handles this moment?
Well, the biggest problem that Joe Biden has is that Americans sense his empathy, and Americans chose him over a very divisive leader. But it doesn't have the same kind of impact that, frankly, we need right now, just because so many voters are wrapped up in this idea that Joe Biden is, not as popular as Frank. And frankly, I don't even understand it, why his popularity has waned the way it has. I think it's a complicated reason. But here's the thing I want to say, Nicole. I think that it is really not fair to spend so much time talking about Elise Stefanik and Tucker Carlson and not mention Donald Trump. Donald Trump said the ugly part out loud. There have always been racists in this country. And yes, my friend Michael Steele is right. There are Democrats that hate Black people, and there are Republicans that hate Black people. No question about it. But the difference is that Donald Trump came down that escalator and he said the ugly part out loud. He said Mexicans coming here were rapists. When we all know the vast majority of Mexicans who have come to America are looking for the American dream. They have strong family values. They have deep religious faith. They want to work hard. They want to raise their children in a place where there's a brighter future. That is very American. And he called them all rapists out loud when he announced for president of the United States. The moment he did that, things began to dramatically change in the Republican Party. And now they are all comfortable with gaining political power through hate of Black people and brown people. And some of these people, it's all about Jewish people. And that now has become an important part of the Republican Party. And I think it's really important we don't forget that Donald Trump delivered that.
Charles, I have to bring you back in on this. I've read all of your columns, and you've dealt with this sort of Republicans operationalizing racial hatred in a way that was accelerated or in the open or whatever word you want to use. When you look at any effort to try to, I don't know if the bell can be unrung, but to try to reverse this, to try to make people safe again, to try to de-radicalize or counter extremism efforts, where do you place Donald Trump?
I mean, he's a central figure, but he is not the beginning, nor will he be the end of it. But, one thing that is very interesting to me about this, Nicole, is that white people have told people who look like me, Black people, other racial minorities, forever, it is fine to be a minority. You can do it. It's perfectly okay. This is America. You can make it. You're just not making it for whatever reason it is. Has nothing to do with us. You can make it as a perfectly legitimate position to be a minority. The moment that white people sense that they could be on the verge of being a minority themselves, many of them are responding with terrorism and killing people. So I want them to understand what that looks like to people like me, which is absolute hypocrisy.
Michael Steele, I saw you nodding. I'll let you jump in on this.
I love what Charles writes, and I love what he says, because he nailed it yet again. So when we were coming through school and trying to get jobs, and it's like, do your best, guy, and it's okay, you can make it. I know it's tough out there. So okay, yes, guess what? In about 20 years, the tables turn. So this is your reaction to becoming part of the grand American experience as one of many, as opposed to just the minority, but one of many, because we look at ourselves as one of many. Yes, our numbers may be smaller than some, but we're part of the we're part of the group, part of the collective, right? It works. That's what you keep telling us. But Charles is right. The moment it looks like the numbers are going to go in a different direction, for a whole lot of white folks, say, wait a minute, time out. No, because at the end of the day, this is about two things. It is about money and it is about power. And there's one thing that I talk about when I talk, particularly the young African Americans. I said, as the country changes, just don't get hooked on this idea that, we're going to, one day black and brown people will be the majority, because there's still the money hook and the power piece. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that they're scared to lose control of more than anything else. And we've already seen it in our history, right? When there was the Black Wall Street, what did they do? Burn it down. Yeah. All right. So that money piece and that power piece, those two things are the last vestiges. Y'all can have the American dream as long as we have the money and the power.
No one's going anywhere. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation.